I definitely heard a lot, you can't charge that. No one is going to want to pay that.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schusler. Today, I'm talking to Karen Smillie, a private practice entrepreneur in San Francisco. Karen specializes in helping phenomenal couples, and she's got a refreshing and bold way of thinking about running her private practice. Hi, Karen Smillie.
Hi, Annie.
Welcome to Therapist Clubhouse.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here.
All right, Karen. One reason that I really wanted to talk to you and get you in the clubhouse is that I see you having really gone a different way than a lot of therapists in how you've designed your private practice, how you've set up your business, including your fees, your branding, your message. And I want to know, first of all, what it's been like to go against the stream and how it's been successful for you, how it's been hard for you. So can you start by telling us a little bit about how you've set up your business a little bit differently?
Sure. So I work with happy, committed couples who have great relationships, who want to make their relationships better. And so that's a little different. Because I know a lot of my colleagues, they work with couples who are about to get divorced or fighting all the time or not sure they're right together. And certainly I have couples like that, but I mostly reach out to and work best with couples who really know that they want to be together, that are committed, that feel like they're pretty awesome and just want to thrive. And so, yeah, that's my practice. And I think it's different. I know it's different because I have heard a lot of other therapists tell me that it couldn't be done.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you get over that? Like, how did you get over hearing that message and decide that it could be done?
It was really hard. People just kept telling me, you have to see couples that are in crisis. You have to talk to couples about their pain points on your website. That's the only way you're going to get clients. And that just didn't sit right with me. It just didn't feel authentic to how I wanted to practice and who I wanted to be seeing. And so certainly the first couple times I was told that, I went home and looked at my website and thought about changing it. And I ended up just turning to a couple friends who I really trusted and who run really great practices and have an abundance mindset. And, they just kind of helped me stay with what I feel is really what I want to be doing, which is helping happy couples, helping couples that are pretty, helping couples who are just really feeling like, okay, we're good. We want to be in this relationship. Let's work on the parts of our relationship that aren't so awesome.
And your message on your website is to phenomenal couples.
Yeah, I don't even know how I came up with that. I just one day typed therapy for phenomenal couples. And for me, that just seemed to fit. I actually had a couple that I worked with that when they called me for a consultation, I keep using the word awesome as I'm talking to you right now. And mostly that's because that's how they presented themselves to me. They said, we are an awesome couple. We are great. We love each other. And, they had maybe two issues that kept coming up again and again and again. And, so they said, we're awesome. We just want to figure out why these issues keep coming up. And I loved working with them, and they grew so much individually and as a couple. And so that's where I came up with the name Therapy for Phenomenal Couples.
I think that's the best kind of messaging. It comes from actual people that you've worked with. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Karen, can I ask you what you charge?
Oh, wow. Okay, sure. Yeah, I charge $240 for 90 minutes. And I prefer to see couples for 90 minutes. I think for me, it's just kind of that sweet spot where I think a lot of great, delicious work happens. And it also helps me keep my client numbers down. I really don't want to see a ton of clients every week. I want to see a few couples that I put a lot of energy into and with whom I'm really um, in sync. And for me to be grounded and to do my best work, it really means I don't have, like 20, 25 client sessions a week. So that's how I figured out what I wanted to charge.
Was it ever hard in conversations with other therapists to, to do that and to talk about your fee?
Yes. Oh my God. Definitely. Again, I met with a lot of people who said that can't be done. Um, And I should be more specific. When I started charging $240, I was only licensed maybe 2 years. And so I think that was a big sticking point for the folks that I spoke with, the other therapists I spoke with, um, because I know a lot of therapists who have been in the field 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And I think when I told them what I was charging, it really shocked them. Yeah, so I definitely heard a lot. You can't charge that. No one is going to want to pay that.
Yeah, and it brings up other people's discomfort, right? And even I hear people sometimes being angry at other therapists for charging what they do. So, yeah, so you really had to get comfortable and grounded in what was right for you and your clients.
Yes, I did. And that took time. I mean, I want to be really honest about that. It took a lot of time. There were points where I thought I was confident with my fee, and then I would disclose it to a group of friends or a group of therapists, and I could feel myself really stressed out about it and really kind of defensive about it. And it took me maybe about a year to feel comfortable saying 240. Even when you just asked me the question, I got a little uncomfortable. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to go there. But yeah,
Well, would you say it's been harder to talk about your fee with other therapists than with potential clients?
oh, sir. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's much harder to talk about my fee with other therapists. Clients don't actually seem to have a problem with the fee. I think part of that reason is that I work in San Francisco and there are a lot of people with money here. And I think another reason is that I put my fee on my website. So most of the time, potential clients already know what I charge before they get on the phone with me for a consultation. And third, I think people know good therapy often costs a lot of money.
Okay. And this is one of those things that as a business coach, this is one of the few things that I've always been on the fence about is whether to put your fee on your website. And as you know, like I'm really opinionated about almost everything. But I think hearing you talk about this is making me feel convinced that it is a good idea for people to put their fee on their website. It might not be the right answer for everybody, but what you just said makes so much sense that people see the fee, they've already self selected as someone who's going to consider working with you at that fee, and that it goes with that feeling that some people have that sometimes isn't true, but that you get what you pay for, right? That if this person is charging 240, then, this is more likely to be quality therapy. And we know there are awesome therapists who are charging $75, but your couples are probably really willing to pay for what looks like the right therapist.
Yeah, I understand why maybe you haven't before formulated a really strong opinion about that or a definitive opinion about that because I do think it really depends on the therapist. That's my point of view. I think it depends on the therapist because some therapists really like people to call and to have that conversation
Mm-hmm.
and get to know them and then let them know what the fee is. And I know that that's worked for a lot of therapists. And by worked, I mean they've gotten clients who were happy to pay what their fee was, even if initially it sounded really high. And I think I probably do miss out on some clients because I post my fees on my website. But for me, I was just getting a lot of calls from people who just couldn't pay anywhere near what my fee is, and I just didn't want to take those calls anymore.
Yes, absolutely. And you also don't, you're not on any insurance panels.
No, so I don't take insurance. No, I don't
Okay.
take insurance.
Okay. I just want people to be able to picture your practice because there are a lot of people who want a practice like yours and don't know that it's possible. So it's really helpful to hear about a practice with a high fee, with longer sessions, with a lot of the things that you're talking about that people believe just aren't possible.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you feel like what I often hear from people is that the type of practice I run is possible because I live in San Francisco, and that there are a lot of places in the country where it wouldn't be possible, where I would have to take insurance? And I'm just curious if, in your experience, that is actually something you've seen, that like there are some places where, you can't really be self pay, full fee, self pay.
Well, that's interesting. Most of the people I work with tend to be in urban areas
Hmm.
and or near urban areas where some of their clients live or work in those cities. And so everyone who I've worked with has been able to create a private pay practice. And I think
Hmm.
it will vary. Like you're in San Francisco, I'm in San Francisco. And there are some cities where 240 is probably not going to be the fee, but it's also going to be a lot higher than what people think it is. That the possibility is much higher than what they think. And I do think in all the places I've worked with people, there's a way to set yourself apart. There's a way to really dive into a niche and be known for a certain way of working, a certain way of thinking that absolutely makes it possible to have a cash paying practice if it's worth it to you. And I know for some people, they want to take insurance. Like they feel like they want to be able to make therapy available for people who are on insurance and want to use their insurance. And that's great. That's not
Hmm.
really what I help people do, but I think that's great for people it's right for.
Right. Yeah. I definitely have friends who want to be on insurance and love building their practice that way. But I also have a lot of therapist friends who just feel stuck on insurance panels. And that's really sad to see.
Yes, absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
who I hear from a lot are people who feel stuck and kind of don't yet believe that it's possible to get off those panels.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hence, we
Yeah.
need Therapist Clubhouse.
Yay! Therapist Clubhouse.
Can you remember
Yeah.
a moment, Karen, when you had kind of not yet gotten on that path to create your own kind of business? Can you remember a moment when you pivoted and realized that this was the way that you wanted to go?
Mm, yeah, I can definitely. So, um, I started. I started out as a private practice intern. Um, so I was unlicensed and I was working under a licensed therapist. And
Are we going to
it
pretend that
was.
we don't know who that is?
Should I tell your
Yeah,
listeners that
yeah.
that was you?
Sure.
I was so lucky to work under the amazing, brilliant, um, licensed Annie Schuessler,
Aw.
MFT. No, seriously, I do feel really lucky to have worked as your intern, Annie, because I remember for your listeners, I worked at an agency where you were my boss, and everyone at the agency was, not everyone, but a lot of people were also doing part-time private practice, and most of them, when they talked about private practice, would talk about it as kind of a drain, like, oh, I'm not making enough money, and oh gosh, like clients aren't calling. And um, when you would talk about private practice, you sounded so hopeful and so grounded. And um, oh, I just remember saying that is who I want to learn from. And
Hmm.
so I was so excited when you said that you'd take me on as an intern. But yeah, so I worked under you. You were really successful. So you would be getting a lot of calls, and then I would get a lot of calls from folks that you couldn't take because you were full. And so it was great. What ended up happening though is that um, I started working 7 days a week, and um, I was working. I wasn't making enough money. And it wasn't that I was seeing, a ton of clients, but I was working 7 days a week because that's when people wanted to come in.
Mm.
Can I come in on Sunday? Sure, okay. Um, so I just remember sitting with you and 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 kind of laying down on the couch across from you and just saying, I'm so tired and I'm so broke. Um, and that felt awful. It wasn't at all how I imagined being a therapist would be like, where I was just exhausted all the time and worrying about money all the time. And it was affecting my sessions.
Mm.
Yeah. And you talked to me a lot about who my ideal client was at that time. And I had no idea. Like, I had come off of agency work, and at agencies, you're given your clients, you don't really get to choose at all. And so I remember thinking about, um, oh, maybe it's couples who are lesbian,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's couples who, um, maybe it's couples of color or couples that are biracial or multiracial. And I came up with kind of all of these ideas that I would try out for a month, but wouldn't really, I don't know, it wouldn't sizzle. It wouldn't electrify me. I'd have trouble writing content for my website. And so like, that was the turning point, and that's kind of the work that I did for maybe about 6 to 8 months, where I just kept trying to figure out who my ideal client is, and like kept trying to pivot my practice towards who I thought that ideal client was.
Yes, not at all. That's really hearing you say that you kept coming back to it and not giving up, not thinking like, well, maybe nothing will sizzle. Like you kept coming back to it until you found that ideal couple. And it was so worth it. I mean, now that was years ago. So,
Mm,
yeah.
hmm Yeah, like for me, I again, oh, one thing I didn't tell you is that I have wanted to be a therapist since I was 10 years old. And
Mm.
so I I had all these fantasies about what it would be like to be a therapist, and ideas and promises to myself I made about that. And um, I had seen so many adults in my life go to work kind of grumpy and then come home exhausted. And I just had really told myself, I'm not going to live like that. And that's how I was living. That's why I needed to pivot. That's why I kept trying to figure out who my ideal client was. And when it didn't spark any energy in me, I just would look for another idea because I really believed that somewhere I was going to find something that really made me go, yes, this is it.
Okay, so that was a very deep promise you made to yourself a long time before.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that in a long time, but it was a big promise. It was a big promise, and I still I want to honor that, you know. I want to honor little Karen who said, "Nope, I'm not going to hate my job."
Yes. Yeah, really. I'm so glad you said that. I want everybody to like make a bumper sticker out of that. Put it on their foreheads.
Not going to do it. Nope,
Yeah.
not going to hate my job.
Yes. So let's say, Karen, that you could time travel back to the start of your private practice. What would you tell the Karen of that time?
Do not work 7 days a week. Don't do it. I think I would say to that Karen, just follow your gut. Just follow your gut. Just build the type of practice that you imagine and see if it'll work. Um, the other thing that, I did that I don't do anymore is I don't work early mornings. I don't work late evenings. Um, I do work weekends, but that's because I actually love working on weekends. And I like having my time off during the week. But yeah, I would tell um, younger Karen to just do it. Do what you want to do. Do what you think you can do, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think, can I answer that question again about what I tell younger Karen?
Yeah.
So I think what I would tell younger Karen is actually to do some work around money. To really understand how I think about money or how she thinks about money if I'm talking to younger Karen. Um, I've done a lot of work in the past 2 years about really just knowing more about what my family's legacy around money looks like, what rules and ideas I've formed around money. And I think that for me, that has really helped me feel so much more confident in charging the fee that I charge and bringing in the amount of money I do. Um, and it's also doing my money work has really helped me with my clients who have to do their own money work. Um, and so I would tell young Karen, hey, spend some time checking out your money stuff.
Yes. And I would really, along with you, I know, really recommend people checking out Barry Tesler's work about this, The Art of Money. And they can even just start with her book now, The Art of Money.
Yeah. Yeah, what I did was I took the year-long course twice, and it was an investment. It feels kind of silly to go, oh, am I going to spend money to learn about money? But it was really helpful.
So worth it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
So, Karen, will you answer a listener question with me?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay, this is a perfect one for you and for the conversation we've been having.
Listener question.
Okay, so Kay says, I would like longer sessions and more time in between clients, but would need to raise my fee since I would be seeing less clients to make it worthwhile. For me, what I'm envisioning is 60-minute sessions with 30 minutes in between to clean up, write notes, and prepare for my next client, since I do a lot of planned play therapy activities that require prep and a good amount of cleanup. For a minimum of $225 per session. I could do one-offs of 45 minutes for $190 if parents just wanted a check-in. This feels unreasonable. How do I do this while keeping therapy reasonable for people? So what's your first take on this?
Wow, that word reasonable really sticks with me. And I'm really curious what that means to Kay.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable. It reminds me a lot of, younger Karen, where I said, no, like you cannot charge that much money. You cannot ask people to come for 90 minutes. You cannot not work evenings. And so I really wonder if reasonable is really kind of the critic in Kay's head, who's telling her she can't have the practice that she wants. And I said she. I don't know if it's a she.
It
Maybe
is.
it's a, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thought about it. Um, I also think, what she's proposing doesn't sound preposterous. It sounds great.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I think she has kind of a decision to make about what her priorities are going to be. Because when she says, I agree, the word reasonable, she says it twice, like this feels unreasonable. How do I keep it reasonable? And I'm assuming part of what she means is affordable. So then I feel like
Oh,
she's got a decision to make around her business model. Like, does she want to have anything in her business model that is really easily accessible to people who can't afford this fee? Like, does she want to be offering any kind of, resources, trainings, those kinds of things that are really easily scalable that she can then offer to parents without it, cutting into her time and self-care? But yeah, there are definitely people in her area that can afford that, and this is where they would want to invest their money to make this is child therapy, in case that wasn't clear. There are a lot of people who would want to invest that money to make their kids' life better.
oh, okay. So I get what you're saying. I wasn't sure at first what you meant, but I think what you're saying is if it's genuine desire, not guilt, but genuine desire to provide service to clients who can't afford her raised fee, then maybe it's about taking a look at her business model and seeing if there's some um, service she can provide that's like lower cost, or maybe something like a workbook or some like writing a blog so that she can direct people who can't afford her fee to her blog. Is that what you mean?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, and it seems like she's already thinking about that in her business model with the shorter session for check-ins with parents.
Yes. And she can really make those just two distinct, different kinds of sessions. But yeah, I agree with you, Karen. I think it feels like from the way that she asks this that there's some mindset work to do to get really clear about how she's most effective and how she's most able to really maintain this practice and keep helping people and stay passionate.
Yeah, and maybe some work around money. Some personal work around money.
So, Karen, you and I use the profit first system. We each use that in our businesses.
Yes.
And so it's based on this book, Profit First, and it's got like a whole system where you don't just make money, then pay your bills in your business and then hope that you're going to have some profit left over. It's like all turned on its head where you set aside profit the moment that you begin to make money. So I'm just explaining that to listeners. I know that you know that. So what is that? I know it's done a lot for me in terms of changing the way that I see my business and feeling so much more empowered. What is it doing for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I love talking about this book and this accounting system because I think it's been so helpful for me. And the author, Mike, what's his
Yeah,
last name?
Mike Michalowicz, I believe.
Yeah, I just call him Mike in my head.
I'll put it in
But
the show notes so people can find it.
So he basically believes that business owners make really bad decisions when they feel in crisis around the money their business has. And that feels really true to me. I mean, I don't do it as much anymore, but I know when I started out, if I was looking at my bank account and then a couple called that I knew I didn't want to work with and that I wasn't even sure would be helped by therapy, I would still take them because I was freaking out. And so that's one reason why I read this book and I was really interested in trying to figure out, okay, like how can I build a business that actually works for me? And so this idea of profit of like putting, I don't know about you, Annie, but like all I had was two accounts before I read this book. That it was, I had business expenses and then I had business savings, which is where I put um, most of my tax money and or money for taxes, where I put my money for taxes. And
Yeah, no, I had one account and I had one business account, and I thought that I was doing pretty well because I'm really good at tracking. And so I always knew exactly to the penny what was going on,
yeah,
but I wasn't setting things aside. I wasn't like, I was budgeting, but I wasn't setting things up in such a way that I would pay myself evenly every month and, save up profit for myself. All of these wonderful things that this system now has us doing.
yeah. So to be more specific for your listeners, Mike has this way where he has you take different percentages of the money that comes into your business and has you put that money in different accounts. And I know there are people who say like, "Oh, well, I can just keep in my head what those different um I can say like this amount of my one bank account is for taxes and this amount of my one bank account is for expenses, but he really really suggests that you get these different accounts, and the count that he feels is the most important and the one that he wants you to pay the first is profit. And that blew my mind because what I was doing is um I was just paying my business expenses and then would take whatever was left over. And I would always be a little like, oh, is this the right amount to take? Or maybe I'll just leave some in there just in case an unexpected expense comes up. And so for me, what Profit First has done, it's really helped me. I just feel so much more calm to know that I have this profit account, this account that even though I had a savings account before, like somehow calling it profit really helps, and it makes me feel like in charge and in control.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
I know not everyone needs something like this. I've definitely talked to some of my therapist colleagues who kind of were already doing this. I think some people maybe don't need a system like this or have naturally adopted one. But for me, it was so helpful and so kind of new.
Yeah. I'm still in that like really zealous converted space where I'm like, no, I think everyone needs to do this. But no, you're that's fair. Maybe not everybody has to.
I know sometimes I have to stop myself from like telling clients about Profit First. Not that it would be bad to, but like a lot of times it's not even what they really needed in that moment.
Yeah. It's not
But
really
yeah.
an AEDP kind of intervention. Karen, how do you balance the roles of clinician and CEO in your therapy business?
I think that's a really interesting question. Like it's making me think really hard right now. I don't think of those things as different.
That's interesting. You have them kind of integrated.
This is a hard question. Um, Yeah, I think they are integrated for me. And what I mean about that is like the CEO of my business is not some money hungry CEO. It's someone who wants its employee to make a sustainable living and have energy to do things in her life that are important, and also provide really therapeutic, effective, clinically sound services to her clients. And so I think they are connected for me. I think they're the same. We haven't talked about this, but I don't offer a sliding scale. And what I mean by that is when clients call and they ask, will you slide because I can't afford your fee? I always say no. And one reason why I do that is because I have had clients who I've been working with lose their jobs or get really, really sick. And for those clients, of course, I slide my fee. And I've slid really, really low just so it was a nominal fee so that they were paying something for session. And so I felt like that was clinically appropriate. My clinician felt like, yes, that's a good idea. And my CEO was kind of like, way to go, Karen. This is not only good for your business, but it's good for the client. And so I think they're really one and the same for me. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. I think that's really kind of an ideal
Yeah.
way to have it. You're not going back and forth like, well, I've got to write this web copy that's going to be really weird and that I won't like. And then I get to have my sessions where I can be real and help people. You're making it all, your fees, your policies, the way you set everything up is all part of one whole.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's the great thing. We work for ourselves. We can do this. We can make the CEO and the clinician the same person in our minds and our hearts.
Yeah, why the hell wouldn't we do that when you put it that way?
Well, I think because we're told not to. Right? There's no business courses in school, so we don't learn how to be the CEO. And then if you read business books, no one's going to say, "Hey, slide your services if it's clinically appropriate."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why we need business coaches like you who will help us figure out how to bring those two parts of ourselves together.
Oh.
Aww.
Oh, man. Thanks, Karen. Karen, what's one way that you bring clients into your practice?
I love this question because it took me a very, very, very long time to figure out the most natural way for me to bring clients into my practice. And so, when you start out, you're told a lot of different things. Write letters to other clinicians, go for lunch. That was the big one. Go for lunch, go for coffee. And I know that works for a lot of people, but for me, it didn't work. It didn't work really well because I am really slow to warm up to folks. And so, and what I mean by that is like I'm slow to warm up and be personable, I think, or at least feel comfortable. And I'm also slow to warm up, like really trusting people I've just met and really kind of feeling that I get who they are. It takes me a little while to do that. And so I would go on these lunch dates or coffee dates and meet other clinicians, but nothing would ever come from that. And so what I started to realize was that the client calls that I was getting were mostly from people who I met through trainings, and not just one day trainings, although I go to those, but I have invested in different trainings, different therapy modalities where their trainings are multiple. And so what I mean is it's not just a day training or a weekend training, but it's actually a few days spread throughout the year, or it's a few weekends spread throughout the year. And that way I actually get to meet other therapists and then re-meet them and then meet them again and just kind of grow these relationships with them with in a way that coffee and lunch didn't for me. So for me, that has been the best way to network. And it's great because I also get to learn. But it took me a really long time. And, these trainings that we go to, they're not cheap. They're not
Yeah.
cheap.
So you're saying it took you a long time to figure that out?
It took me a long time.
Mm.
At first I was just going to these trainings because I was interested in the theory, or my friend was going. But I now know that it is a sound business decision, not just to learn more, but to network and to find communities of people that will turn into referral sources.
And you get to see them doing a lot of times, like you get to see them in role plays and they get to see you.
Yeah.
And it's just such a trust builder.
Yes. Yeah. And so then when I refer people to them, I really know they're going to be taken care of.
Where can people find you and throw compliments at you?
I'd love compliments. So my website is karensmillie.com, and that's KarenSmillie.com. And that's the best way to reach me.
Thank you so much, Karen, for being here and being so generous with your time.
You're so welcome, Annie. I'm so excited for the Therapist Clubhouse. I cannot wait to just share your podcast with everyone I know.
Yay. Thank you.
Yay. Bye.
Bye. My snark moment today
Snark moment.
might actually hit kind of close to home for some of you. I feel snarky about therapists being upset with other therapists for how much they charge. I think it's a little bit of a projection when someone's upset with another therapist for how high their fee is. It tells me that the therapist who's upset is either not charging enough themselves or has some other money issue going on that they're projecting on the other therapist. I think when you're comfortable with what you're charging, then you're not really that upset about what anybody else charges. So get comfortable with your own fee if you're complaining about other people's fees. Thanks for listening to Therapist Clubhouse. Find articles, show notes, links for everything we talked about, and free training at coachingwithannie.com.